Hello everybody, this is Old Soldier. Well, I often talk about older gear, especially older military gear, and this episode is going to be right up this alley. Now, this is a good piece of gear. I really like it, and it was way ahead of its time, but this is the German Army Bundeswehr sleeping bag. So let's start talking about it. This is a sleeping bag. This is in its carry configuration. I don't have it completely folded up here. Maybe I should do that real quick. Let me do that. Okay, much better. So I've got this put together. You can see how I've strap connected it, and then the belt also secures it. But this is in its folded carrying configuration, or ready for the pack. And what this is, it's a basically some substantial insulation with a rubberized exterior that is highly resistant to sleet, rain, and snow. And then you can also, it has arms, so military application, or I suppose hunting, you could handle a firearm or do a manual task. And also it zips open, and you could quickly slip your boots on. I don't recommend wearing your boots inside of a sleeping bag, although I have known people that did do that, and I did that in the demonstration yesterday. But this is just a nifty piece of kit. And I first heard about this when I joined the Army. I was never stationed in Germany, but some of the old hands, some of the NCOs had been. And I had heard stories about this sleeping bag that the German Army had that you could zip open and slip your boots on and walk around and wear it. And you saw in the introduction, got a little taste of that. So let's get into it. So this is the upper portion, and as you can see, it has arms built into this, or pardon me, sleeves. So you can reach out of it. You're not caught inside of some cocoon. Now, it probably doesn't insulate as well, but probably 3 seasons, spring, summer, fall, as long as it doesn't get too terrible cold, there's probably enough insulation. And this is a sleeping bag that can also be worn as a jacket or a coat or a greatcoat. And this is 1960s or 1970s technology, well before, hats off, I love Hill People gear, but this is decades before the Mountain Serape. And strangely enough, from a foreign government, but a foreign government entity, and it works quite well. You can see it has an insulated hood with a drawstring, and then the rubberized hood to keep rain off also doubles as part of the carrier storage system. And these work. Now, when I was in SF, I bought this surplus. I'd like to have some cool story about how I traded with a German soldier with it, but didn't happen. This is Army surplus that I bought, and I used this for a couple times, I think in fall and spring. And it worked just fine, and even if it even gets really warm, especially in the mountains, it'll cool down at night. Worked just fine. And it is nice to have something that if you have to move around, especially in a military situation, you can just unzip and slip your boots on and walk around in. And let's really get into some more specific details. Here you can see the insulation. It's real similar. I compare it to a little bit heavier, probably not as lightweight as a pencil liner, and then like I said, it has a rubberized coating that is very, very rain resistant. There's also the instructions in German, and my poor high school German, if I took the time to translate it in time and effort, I probably could do it. I can kind of make out some things, but I'm just not going to put that time into it. The zippers on these things are great, good quality. Like I said, German government made. They have hung in there. This thing has been used. Like I said, I used it a couple times when I was in SF, and used it a number of times after on summer hiking trips and camping trips. Works okay. This is a heavy duty zipper. You can see works well. The sewing is really good. There's no sign, and this thing is old. And one other thing is they do have, if you do need extra insulation, if it is cold, to put over the zipper. The buttons are also quality. The pull to snap buttons. This thing has stood up very well because, like I said, this was a surplus item. Somebody had this well before I did. Probably used fairly hard, and seems to have really quality. Seems to be really quality. The lower zipper as well is also quality. It also has pull the dot or snap type fasteners for extra insulation, and this is great. This probably is one of the most revolutionary features for its time. Is that if you were sleeping in this, had to go someplace, had to slip your boots on, just open it up, flip it out. You can, with the storage buckle, you tie the waist, you tie the lower portion around your waist, and this can be worn as a greatcoat. That's where your feet and legs come out. How I have it here is with the buckle secure. So this is how it would be worn in the greatcoat fashion, and this secures the lower portion that goes around your feet, up around your waist, so you can walk around with it. And you saw the introductory portion, you saw me walking around in it. Very simple, yet this thing was well ahead of its time, and I really haven't seen, the closest thing that I've seen to it, I'm sure there's other products, is the Mountain Serape. Mountain Serape is great, I love it, but this thing, as far as repelling water, will do a much better job. And this, like the Germans developed this is really suited to northern European climes. Now, this thing is at a minimum 40 years old or older, 40 to 50 years old, and maybe even possibly older. You can see where some of the rubberization is kind of dry rotted at the edges and starting to peel off. And that's showing up at a few places, but really it still does shed water really very well. As time goes on, this will get worse and worse, but maybe I won't pass it on my grandkids, but this still is a pretty solid piece of gear. Like I said, I took this to the field a couple times. Obviously when my guys, my team, see me walking around in this thing, or zip my feet out and put my boots out and I'm walking around with it, it elicits a lot of comments. That's to be expected from the peanut gallery. This was kind of, like I said, a cool piece of gear. It worked well, and I see no real equivalent of it today in today's market, and I shudder to think what the cost would be to produce something like this. Frequently in the 82nd, I'd see guys that would take their rubber raincoats, this is well before the time of Vortex, and they would have somebody in a sew shop insulate them with a poncho liner, and that would work pretty well. This thing it's bulkier, but it really is superior to that. And overall, I really liked it. I bought this in the 90s for about $40. I can imagine these things are somewhat scarce to find. If you can find them, I looked recently and it was well over $100, like 140, 150. Now, in today's market, as old as this is, it works great. If you could get one in good shape, yeah, I'd spend the money on it. If not, I don't know if it's worth the money. I really don't. I don't know if this is worth the money, and if you get a poor copy, I'd be really hesitant to buy one, just because as much time as has passed since these things have been around. And I'm not sure the German army even still use them. If one of my watchers served in the Bundeswehr, or another military that had something like that, I would like to hear their comments on this being an issued piece of kit and their experiences with it. But if you can find a decent copy, yeah, I highly recommend it. I don't know if I would pay the same for it as a Mountain Serape. I really don't, because newer piece of gear, will stand up better. This thing, we'll see how much longer it hangs in there. But, I've never regretted buying it. So, anyway, I have my critics and some of my friends kind of tell me I'm stuck in the Wayback Machine with gear, but this is a unique piece of retro gear. So, hey, if you can find one in good shape, I highly recommend it. If you can't, hey, so what? But this style is something that, you can sleep in and then wear, move around, and utilize your arm. There's an application for it. So this is Old Soldier. This is my review of 1960s, 1970s era Bundeswehr German Army sleeping bag. This is Old Soldier out.